but it's completely different than any college you've ever experienced. For example, the first year, there's only one class and there's only one test. But unless you ace and get an A+ on that first test, in this case development, then the sophomore year doesn't happen. And so I'm very curious about experiences that you've had where you're developing something, what the length of time can be for development, and also what does it mean for a show to be ready for a green light and actually make it to that next step of production? How about you, Rob?
Well, for me, the longest was probably 2.5 years from start of writing to when we actually were, assembling a team. The shortest was about 6 months, and that was pretty remarkable. Typically, in my experience, it's been 2 or 3 scripts, a series Bible, some visual development, a budget and a schedule, and then the person that decides to pay for it says, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah, that's amazing, 6 months. I was gonna say, a year is my fastest. I thought that was pretty speedy. I think 3 years is probably the longest that I've had. Sometimes development will go on and on and on, and the show won't get paid after you spent 7 years doing development and the money is run out, which is always a bummer. What do you guys think?
Gosh, kind of a mix. I have something that's my own personal thing that the first time it was picked up was in 2012. And it's been in development 3 times at the same studio, and a 4th at a side studio, and then came back. And that one's just sitting there. It's still there, amazingly. So I don't even know how, that's probably gonna be my record. It will, if it goes. But other than that, I've had things that are so quick where the studio has said, like, we're doing this, and it gets greenlit to series, and we don't even have a world built, and we don't even really know what our characters look like yet, and we're going. Right now, I'm in development on something, and I think it's been about 1.5 to 2 years. It's gone through a lot of changes, a lot of design changes. We could probably create a whole part of the book out of the work that's been done, but it's just part of the process.
Absolutely. For Primos, I was in development for 2 years, but it was actually longer kind of getting the deal together. The deal took like a year. So, technically, I said 3 years. But yeah, I was really lucky. Things didn't really change too much except for my main character's nose, which was really big in the Bible, because I always draw myself with a really big nose. And Disney was like, you gotta make it cuter. So, just make it a little smaller. But that's a Disney find, and there you go.
If you're able to make it through that first year or 2 years, and you finally get that incredible email that your show is going, you get the green light and you're going into production. What follows is this incredible next year or 2 years where you're in production, and sometimes as a showrunner, you're writing scripts all the way through, checking final animation and making sure everything's cleared for air. How do you start the process of just getting yourself ready to be in that sausage, that sausage factory, that pipeline? Do you go to the gym more?
Absolutely.
Do you stock up your refrigerators? Like, what does it take for you to just kind of, almost like Rocky getting ready for the fight, what does it take for you to prep in order to run a show? Nicole, how about you? Do you have a kind of a process that you've done each time you're about to go in for the first meeting or writer's summit?
I feel like a very strong factor in my motivation when I write is fear of deadlines. And usually when a show is greenlit, it's taken so long to get the green light that we're already behind somehow. So for me, there's not really a prep amount of time as much as go, oh my God, go. Certainly you want to, when you know you've got a green light, and there are different varieties of green light, I feel like I should say too. There's the blending green light, which means like we want to make this show, but we don't necessarily have the money for it yet. Nobody signed off on that, but it's going to happen maybe. And then sometimes it's just a green light, we're just going to green light the pilot, right? So sometimes we do that. But okay, in this metaphor, we're in sophomore year, we're about to start. Hopefully I've had the time to already suss out who I think would make a good writer's room and done those kind of inquiries, who's available, and it's nice to have the luxury to have a show with a world already, because it's very hard, as Aliki was saying, to be producing and also creating what this is at the same time, because you could make a choice and then proceed with the next script with that choice and then get the note that no, we're not doing that choice. And so then suddenly you're moving backwards. I'm not sure that helped at all, but yeah, that's my process.
Me?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, oh my gosh, yeah, I mean, there's no like set way that it happens or real thing that you can do exactly, but I know a couple of things that help me. I just like to kind of find ways to be immersed in the world. So I always start with like mood boards and color boards, and then like even like I don't, we bring designers usually to do the character designs on our shows, but I help with developing just because I know acting-wise what I want or story-wise what I want. So once I start drawing the character, then I start feeling like I'm more immersed in the world. I always make a music playlist, like songs of da-da-da world. Yeah, a Spotify playlist, and I share it with my team, and so now we know the vibe of our music and our world, and so just kind of like find ways to immerse. I'm really like feeling the world, so that when we hopefully get to that point, we're kind of ready to go. Again, there are times you're more ready than others, but I find that just kind of helps with shaping my mind and kind of getting the vibe of where we're going.
Yeah, I did a lot of the same things actually, but I think the most helpful thing I did was learn how to meditate. That was like the best self-care I could have given myself. I actually took lessons of how to do transcendental meditation. So I have a mantra, and I use it, and it's very helpful.
I clean my
Different,
desk.
yeah.
I clean off my desk, my literal desk, making sure everything, my office, everything is spotless. I can start with a clean slate. One thing that I do that's a little weird is I write reviews of what the show, fictional reviews for the show that I'm about to make. They're usually good. Then I sort of use that to sort of manifest what the end result was going to be. And it actually kind of works. So far, so good.
It's great.
See, one of the best things about doing these panels is getting to just listen to our peers and be like, oh, yeah, I like that idea. I want to do that.
And I'm hearing that, and I'm like, you're doing extra writing, but you're.
They're very short. Like back in the DVD box, kind of.
In that process of, when production is started, and this could be when you're still in the early stages of the writer's room and you're producing scripts, or much later where the other elements have started. You're bringing in new artists, you're starting the storyboard process, you're seeing animatics. What does a typical day or even week look like for you as a showrunner, just on your daily schedule, on your calendar? What does that look like? How do you kind of manifest how you're going to approach that day or week?
It kind of depends on what stage of production you're in, because usually at the start of the production, if you were to look at a production schedule, I wish I could have brought an older one. It looks almost like, we call it a waterfall. It looks like that. It starts off with one thing and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller as we move through time. So early in the production schedule, I'm going to be focused on scripts. I'm going to be focused on visual development. Once scripts are finished, we'll start doing, before that we'll start doing casting. Then we'll start doing voice records. Then we'll start doing storyboards. Then once those storyboards are done, then we can actually start doing animation. And keep in mind, every week we start a new episode. So you imagine that schedule will be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So week 1, I have one script due. Week 2, I have a second draft script and an outline due. And it gets more and more and more and more. So you just have to figure out how to manage your time and get a lot of help.
Yeah, a typical day is a week, is what I would say. To that point, I can say that I just started working on Unicorn Academy Season 2. I'm show running that, and it's kind of in the middle of production right now. So it's that part of the waterfall he's talking about where it's like this. And so in a day, I will have sound spotted an episode. I will have launched a writer to script. I will be doing music notes. I will be reviewing an animatic, and I will be seeing lighting coming in and also final animation. So you are in so many different stories at once. You kind of have to remember what happens when, and I changed this here, I've got to change that there. So you have to kind of be jumping back and forth all throughout.
Yeah, you definitely wear many hats in this job, and that's what I love about this job. I love that the day is so full of all these different things and kind of being, I like to call it the keeper of the vision. So everything you do in your day kind of falls under like, how am I being the keeper of the vision, and how is this in line with the vision? So very much like what's been described. Sometimes when people are like, what is a normal day like? I'll just open up my calendar and go like this, and because it's so jam-packed when you're taking production. But again, like I love that I'm, the first 2 hours of the day it's in the writer's room, and then it's noting a script, again, being in different stages. Being that I come from the animation and storyboarding side, a lot of times there's a part of my day where I'm doing draw over. So I'm redlining designs, or I'm going over a storyboard, or even animation, and doing drawings over animation poses. And then there could be a report and spotting, and like it's just a full day of so many different things. You really do have to be that kind of person where you like to move between the different parts of the process, which I do, and just kind of like be aware of all the different parts going on. And if you can't, don't be afraid to just ask somebody like, what are we doing right now? Which happens a lot.